down the years, the actual making of the work and the process and being in that zone has become probably more important than, you know, the final outcome or where it goes. So, I mean, it used to be a case where you're rushing to get the project made so that you can exhibit it. Whereas now, well, I also, I suppose, I work in quite a long-term extended way. So it's like the process is kind of is intertwined with my life. So yeah, so those, even outside of taking pictures and making pictures, the interactions that I have with people and institutions and getting to be in these places and experience these people and how people live is a huge part of my life. So it's much more, it's not separate. It's a personal thing for me in that like I never went to college when I finished school. It just didn't have, it just wasn't really viable. But I always had it in the back of my mind that I wanted to be further educated. So it was just, I suppose my background, education wasn't really seen as a priority. But it was something that was important to me, but just didn't happen. But I basically came to it quite late. So I did my degree in my 30s. And I'd had various jobs, like, brilliant jobs before that. So I suppose I'd kind of experienced, a certain side of life. So to me, when I did the degree, it just completely changed my outlook. Just gave me a freedom, I suppose, that I've been looking for. It just lifted. It was like a weight was lifted. I think for me, it's around the idea of effect. So I would really like people to be affected by my pictures. So it is about emotion, but it could be a quiet emotion. Like to me with the portraits, I think, you can read into them whenever you want. But it's how they make you feel, but then there are other images that will kind of contextualize it, that might have more kind of metaphorical aspects to them. And then there are others that can be just quite, not blank, but could be quite abstract and could be more about a mood or a feeling again. And then you kind of hope that the overall thing, in terms of if you're talking about an exhibition, that the overall thing will leave you with something. I would like to make people feel something. Obviously I have some that I like more than others, and then you always kind of like the newest stuff, I think, because you're detached from stuff that you've been looking at stuff for years and years. You can become a bit detached from what it actually is, or you can't necessarily see it anymore. Other people can, but you can't. So I suppose, the series that I did in Larkin Community College of the senior cycle students, I think is, I really like, and I suppose it's still kind of fresh. And obviously I have the picture of Diane over there, which is, will always be a favourite. But it's hard to say, because there's been hundreds, if not thousands, of photos edited out of what might end up in the exhibition, because that has to make sense as a whole. And some of my, some of my pictures that I really like will never necessarily see the light of day, because they just don't work in that context, but they'll inform things for me. I like beautiful images, and there's a whole million years of debate around that, but to me that is important, and it's also important as a way to kind of draw people in. It's not it's not a spectacular thing, but it could be just a quiet beauty that makes them want to look, and maybe when they leave they can start to think about, the layers that are behind that. I'd rather that than tell people what to do or what to think or be overly, or to point overly at things. Give them a bit of room to use their imagination. I wouldn't presume that anything, that would even happen, but at the same time, it's about trying and having that. Sometimes just having the presence, can make people question. I mean, I've had so many questions about like why, from students, like, why are you here? What is your, because they understand it in the concept of, you're making a documentary, or you're here, but it's a newspaper, or it's some kind of, whereas the idea of that you're just hanging around and observing and listening, and then just making stuff is, they really didn't get in the beginning, but then they did, I think they began to, and they, as they kind of just referred to me as just Mandy. After a long while, it's like, because I did come up against a lot of resistance, and you have to, it was quite hard, but you have to expect that you're invading somebody else's, it's a semi-private space, so that's another huge part of it all, is building trust, and again, I suppose that's part of why I want to bring this stuff to the school, to kind of go, it will be very easy for me to just go, okay, I've done my project and now I'm going to have my lovely exhibition, because I am very conscious of exhibitions and who comes to exhibitions and what the audience is. And I mean, I know that there was a certain point where there were, you could say there was a certain elitism, and the people who go to art galleries as such. I don't think it's quite the same now. Like, things have opened up a lot. There's a lot more outreach. But I don't want my work just to be in this kind of niche, photography audience, art audience, people who are going to look at this stuff anyway. So say, for example, the work that I'm doing now with yourself in the gallery, I will also have a parallel exhibition and workshops in the school where I did the residency. So, and to me, they're both equally important. And obviously, like, the children will come to see the work in the gallery, but also I'm bringing it to them in their school environment, and it's very much a site-specific thing. So I do love that. That's important to me, to kind of have that wider viewing.